Hi. Under political science, that is civics, today we will start the very first chapter, that is democracy in the contemporary world. Democracy, as you know, is the rule of the people, by the people and for the people. But this rule by the people was not an easy transition. So under this chapter, that is democracy in the contemporary world, we will study how this transition from autocratic rule, that is the authoritarian rule, the rules of the king and the queen, came to democracy, or it transited to democracy. That we will study. So we will start the chapter with the stories about two countries, that is Poland and Chile. Then we will study about the two features of the democracy. After studying these two stories, we will conclude the two main features of the democracy, actually what is democracy and what are its features. And we will study about the expansion of the democracy since 1900 to contemporary world, that is 20th century. As we know, in a democracy, people have got so many rights. They enjoy so many political, social and economic rights. These rights were not granted to them easily. They have to struggle a lot. In many of the countries, they have to struggle a lot, because earlier, in ancient time also, it was the rule of one man. Whatever he uttered, it was law. People didn't have any right, but slowly and slowly this tradition changed, and people started demanding human rights. And also that was possible only under democracy, where people have the right to rule themselves. So the very first instance of democracy in the history is recorded in Athens, Greek, where direct democracy was practiced. So at that time in Athens, the people, they participated directly in the decision making process of the government. But right now, in the contemporary world, we see that direct democracy in most of the countries is not possible because of the expansion in population and so many other factors. So right now, most of the countries, they practice representative democracy. That is, the people, they have the right to vote. They elect their representatives, and these representatives on their behalf, they sit in the parliament and make decisions for the people. So it is the indirect form of democracy which is being practiced right now. But this indirect democracy was also not granted to people so easily. So we will start this chapter with the two stories of democracy. First with Chile. In Chile, President Salvador Allende was elected president way back, was a democratically elected president way back in 1970. This President Salvador Allende was elected the president of Chile by the people. People elected him through elections, through the process of elections. So this President Allende was a kind of president who worked for the welfare of the people. He did so many works in the field of education, health, mainly for the welfare of the people, so that people's welfare could be promoted through. He made so many policies, or he announced so many policies which gave people many rights. Then, but landlords, rich and church didn't favor him because of his policies. They were against his policies, and as a result, in the military coup of 1973, he was killed. So USA at that time, USA was a powerful nation. So USA didn't favor his rule. So the military rulers of Chile, backed by USA, ousted President Allende Salvador. They bombarded the place where he was living, and as a result, he was killed. And after this military coup, General Pinochet became the military dictator. he became the military dictator. So military dictatorship was established. He was not a good ruler. He tortured people. He was against all those people who favored democracy. He was against all those people who favored the rule of Allende, and he did everything to reject the rights of the people. He was not in favor of giving liberal rights to the people or any kind of rights to the people. Whatever he used to say, that was the final rule of the country. So this situation kept on till 1988, and finally he was confident that people are happy with his rule, and therefore he subjected the country to the referendum. So when under referendum, people didn't favor Pinochet, and as a result, Pinochet has to step down. And finally, democracy was restored. People didn't favored him. He have to step down, and finally some other president came, some other democratically elected person president came in, and democracy was finally restored. So right now what we have studied in child is the transition of democracy to military dictatorship, and finally again to democracy. So what we have seen here is, what we can conclude is that democracy didn't remain stable for a long time. Something or the other kept on evading democracy, maybe the backing of the other country, or maybe the people were not, some powerful people, they were not ready to accept the rule of the people or give them certain rights. So this was the situation in child. Right now we will study about another story, that is about Poland. The second democrat we will study about is Poland. Now this Poland, in child we have studied that there was the dominance of one person, one ruler, but in Poland there was the dominance of one political party, that is the Communist Party over there ruled, that is the Polish United Workers Party. So they also were not in favor of giving people the basic rights, the basic fundamental rights. People were not allowed to form associations, they were not allowed to express their opinions freely, they were not allowed to protest. So all this kind of restrictions were there. So it was an autocratic party, and anyone who didn't favor the party were put behind the prison. So this was the scenario over there. So here no party, it was a communist party, so no party was allowed to function, and here they had the backing of the USSR. Since at that time USSR was a big communist country, so they supported the government of Poland. So here also a phase started when people were against their rule, the people didn't favor them, the people started raising their voice against the autocratic rule of this communist party in Poland. So that phase came on 14th August 1980, when the workers in the Lenin shipyard in the city of Gdańsk they went on strike. The city of Gdańsk went on strike. They demanded that since certain worker was ousted, they wanted that he should be taken back by the organization, and they did everything to force the government to accept their demands. So, under the leadership of Walesa, this man Walesa, the strike spread in whole of the city, and people demanded more rights. They wanted the right to freedom of expression and speech. They wanted the right to protest. They wanted the right to form associations and so on. So, they did everything to force the government to accept their rights. Finally, government, when they saw that the situation was going out of control, the government finally gave in, and the workers led by Walesa signed 21-point agreement with the government where certain rights were given. And after that, they were encouraged. They formed, this Walesa, he formed a solidarity group which later became his party, and finally new trade union called Solidarity was formed with government, and finally in 1989 another agreement with the government made elections possible in Poland. And when elections were held, naturally people, they were not in favor of the communist rule. They voted in favor of Solidarity, and Walesa, he became the president of the Poland. So he became the first president of the Poland. So here we saw that the communist rule, that is the autocratic rule, was transformed into a democratic rule because people raised their voice. If people had not raised their voice, it would have been not possible. So what we can conclude is, until and unless people raise their voice for certain thing, they cannot get rights, they cannot get their due rights. They cannot get their due rights. So right now we can conclude that democracy is a form of government that allows people to choose their rulers, where people have got the right to choose their rulers. So democracy is a form of government that allows people to choose their rulers. In a democracy, only those leaders should rule who are elected by the people. Only leaders elected by people should rule. Only when people are elected, only when leaders are elected by the people can they work for their welfare, because they would always have this in mind that if they don't work for the welfare of the people, next time they won't come to power. So this thing motivates them to work for the welfare of the people, and since they are elected by the people, they naturally work for the welfare of the people, and if they don't, they are ousted. Second, people should have certain rights. People should enjoy certain rights. Certain rights means right to express your views, right to organize, right to protest, right to life and liberty. So many rights which even Indian government have granted. These rights are so important that most of the countries have made a provision in the constitution. They have made a separate provision in the constitution so as to guarantee these rights to the people. Then there are certain safeguards so that even the government or any other organ of the so that even government or any other institution or individual or counterpart individual cannot take these rights from a person. And then there is judiciary in the country who is the safeguard of these fundamental or these basic rights. So, from the two stories from the two tales of the democracy, that is one from child, where there was a democratically elected government, then it converted to military dictatorship, then again the restoration of the democracy. We had seen that it was only the voice of the people which helped the transition of autocratic rule into a democratic rule. So right now, from the two stories which we have studied, we have concluded two main features of the democracy. First is only leaders elected by the people should rule, and that people should enjoy certain rights, and that democracy is the form of government that allows people to choose their rulers. Right now, this is only under this topic. Thank you.